I made two major changes to my teaching instruction years ago, and it had great results for my students. Let's talk about it. The first thing I did was photocopy anything that we were going to read in class. Here's why. When kids would take out the textbook from below their desk or bring in the textbook that they had assigned to them, which we stopped years ago, whenever they read, they weren't allowed to write in the textbook. And what's one way to engage with the text? Annotation. So I started photocopying everything, and it took a lot of time, but it was so worth it, because then I would say, okay, we're going to read this short story. You are going to look for these elements. And sometimes I would say in the first paragraph, I want you to give me all of the adjectives, all of the descriptor words that make up the setting. And we had already talked about adjectives, reviewed them every year, and setting. So they were prepared for that. And then as I was reading, or as they were reading on their own, they were little detectives. They were looking for these things, and they'd get highlighters. Some would have highlighters of different colors for every single thing they were doing. They were actively engaged with the text. It was no more sitting there staring at a page, their eyes just going over the words and not taking anything in. The best part was then any activities that we did after the reading, they were allowed to use their annotations. So they were motivated to annotate as much as possible, take margin notes, write summaries at the ends of paragraphs, because then when they would do an activity or write an essay, they had their own notes all ready to go. I started this way before I saw students' reading habits and their reading stamina really take a dip. And the dates that I say this happened was right around 2013, 2014. I saw such a decline in the desire to read, the ability to read for sustained periods of time, and I also saw a huge dip in their vocabulary. And that's also why I started Word of the Day. They're not SAT words. They're everyday words that we think people should know that kids really didn't know after about 2015, 2016. You'd be shocked. On my Teachers Pay Teachers store, there is a free list of the 120 words that I would use for my Word of the Day. I think you'll be shocked to see that some words are on there, but they're words that kids really don't know anymore. The second thing was I cut down drastically on the number of works that I taught each year. I went more for depth rather than breadth, so I could really do a deep dive into each thing that we were reading and spend more time with it. I felt it was much more important to teach them the art of annotation, critical thinking, how to make inferences, how to engage with the text, than to blow through it to say, okay, I covered it, I covered it, I covered it. That doesn't serve the students or us. And I've been hearing from teachers in some states that your entire curriculum, almost day to day, is already prescribed and you have to follow it to that exact day. Sounds like an absolute nightmare. Do they realize that teachers are colleagues and not clones of each other? There's a human element that comes into teaching. My anecdotes are not going to be the same as my colleagues, or maybe a colleague who doesn't even tell anecdotes. But I don't know how you do that. That sounds like a nightmare. And I remember when I first started teaching advanced placement English in 2005, and I had gone to the seminars and I joined the online chat groups, and people were bragging about the fact that they had their students read 20 books during the school year. And right away I was like, you assigned 20 books. I highly doubt that your students read 20 books. Back then it was Cliff Notes. Now it's just they put a summary in ChatGPT and say, tell me about this book and everything I need to know. But I said, are they really getting anything out of those 20 books? So I even cut what I did in my AP class down drastically. I did deeper dives on fewer items, and my scores went up. I really cut down the last 7 years of my career, and from that point on, in an open enrollment class, which means anybody could take it regardless of their grade or what level they should be in, I encouraged every student to take the test, because who knows, they might do really well on the test even if they're not doing well in the class. With those factors in place, my scores were consistently above a 90% passing rate, and I had multiple years with a 100% passing rate. I knew the students in my class would probably never remember the poem, the short story, the novel that we read, but they were able to use those as a vehicle to hone their skills in critical thinking, analysis, and making inferences. And those skills are transferable to jobs, to college, and to life. All right, those are two things I did that really helped my students and helped me throughout my career. If you get some value out of that, I am thrilled, and I hope you use it for your kids as well.